Have you ever wondered why, despite being a good person, no one protects you? Why your loyalty, fairness, and effort are constantly taken for granted, or worse, used against you? The answer is brutal. Because in the real world, goodness without strategy is just bait. It signals weakness. It paints a target on your back. And in a world ruled by appearance and power, being good without being feared is an invitation to be used. You've been conditioned to believe that if you work hard, stay honest, and treat people well, the world will reward you. That's a comforting lie. But Machiavelli never dealt in comfort. He dealt in power. Let's get brutally honest. Most people aren't playing to be fair. They're playing to win. And if you don't know the rules of that game, you're not a player. You're a piece, a useful idiot. The modern workplace, the social scene, even your closest relationships, they're arenas. Political, strategic, ruthless. You think your boss values loyalty? He values usefulness. You think your friends respect your kindness? They respect strength. That's why nice guys finish last. Not because they're bad, but because they're blind. You've been taught to avoid manipulation, to avoid playing games. But here's the Machiavellian truth. If you refuse to play, you don't rise above the game. You lose by default. You think people love your honesty, but most use it to extract more from you. You think your openness earns trust. Often it just gives others ammunition. You believe helping others will make them help you back. And when they don't, when they step on you to get ahead, you call it betrayal. It wasn't betrayal. It was you being naive. You see, power doesn't ask if you're a good man. It asks if you're useful or dangerous. And if you're neither, you're discarded. This is where most men are stuck, trying to live by a moral code in an amoral world. They want to be respected without demanding respect. They want to be loved without being feared. They want fairness in a world that rewards force. But let me ask you, would you rather be the loyal servant or the cold strategist, the moral victim or the calculated victor? Because if you don't understand Machiavelli, someone else does, and they're using that knowledge to use you. The first step to power is seeing the battlefield. And the battlefield is filled with smiling faces, hidden knives, and rules no one tells you. We're not in a schoolyard. We're in a court, a corporate court, a political court, a social jungle. In this world, you either understand appearances, manipulate perception, and act with virtue, or you get played. So ask yourself, who benefits from your silence, your loyalty, your passivity? Who's climbing higher because you're too good to fight back? The truth is, being good is not the problem. Being unarmed is. And until you see that, you will be used. By bosses, lovers, friends, institutions. Used, drained, and discarded. Because you never understood Machiavelli. You were told the world is fair. That if you're honest, respectful, and loyal, you'll get the same in return. But here's the truth. Power doesn't care about your morals. It only cares about your moves. Most men operate like civilians in a war zone, shocked when they get hit, outraged when others break the rules, and paralyzed when betrayal happens. Why? Because they mistake the world for a church when it's a battlefield. Political naivety is not just ignorance, it's suicide. In your job, you assume your efforts will speak for themselves. But the man who controls the narrative, not the truth, controls the game. In your relationship, you assume love guarantees loyalty. But loyalty isn't given. It's managed, maintained, and manipulated. You think neutrality protects you. It doesn't. It just makes you invisible to allies and vulnerable to enemies. Look around you. The man who got promoted didn't necessarily work harder. He played smarter. The friend who always gets the girl? He understands social power, charm, scarcity, dominance. The politician who keeps winning? He knows perception is more powerful than policy. You still think power is earned by being right. But in the real world, power is taken by those who dare and held by those who understand. Here's the brutal Machiavellian law. If you don't politic, you get politically replaced. You believe there's no politics in your office? Wake up. Every conversation, every decision, every alliance is a move on a board. And if you don't see the board, you're already a pawn. Political naivety makes you easy to predict, easy to guilt, easy to control. People smile at you while feeding you lies because they know you'll never question them. They play on your sense of fairness, your need to be liked, your fear of confrontation. You become what Machiavelli warned against. A man who lives in ideals while being destroyed by reality. So what's the cure? Cynicism? No. Strategy. You don't need to become cruel. You need to become clear. Clear about human nature. Clear about incentives. Clear about how power moves. Silently, surgically, and without apology. Realists win because they prepare for betrayal, anticipate deception, and act with precision. They know appearances matter more than intentions. They know influence beats effort. They know virtue, when unarmed, is just a costume. That's the evolution, from victim to strategist, from believer to observer, from moral idealist to Machiavellian realist. So let me ask you, how many more times will you let your kindness be used as a leash? How many more betrayals will it take before you see the game for what it is? Because no one is coming to save you, not your boss, not your partner, not your government. If you want respect, if you want power, if you want control, you must become politically awake. You must understand Machiavelli. And once you do, you stop being used. You start using the game instead of being played by it. You think you're making your own choices. But if you've never studied the structure of power, if you don't understand incentives, appearances, or the architecture of influence, then you're not a player. You're a piece, moved, positioned, sacrificed. The average man walks into rooms blind. He sees people. He doesn't see agendas. He hears words. He doesn't hear strategy. He sees friendliness. He doesn't see control. Let me break it to you. You are being used every day. And you don't even notice. Your employer leverages your loyalty to extract more labor. Your partner uses your need for affection to extract compliance. Your friends use your reputation, time, and presence to elevate themselves socially. Even society uses your guilt, fear, and desire to belong, to keep you obedient. You've been told you're free, but you've been domesticated. Why? Because you were never taught how power actually works. You were taught morality, not manipulation. You were taught to follow rules, not to understand why they exist and who benefits from them. In a game of chess, the pawn doesn't know it's being sacrificed. It just keeps moving forward, believing it's contributing, believing it matters, until it's gone. Now ask yourself, when was the last time you felt truly in control of your decisions? Are you acting or reacting? Players, real players, don't just react to the game. They read the board. They study opponents. They calculate moves 3 steps ahead. They know how to appear weak when they're strong, how to let others speak so they can learn, how to offer small losses to secure major wins. And you? You're taught to be yourself, to be authentic, to speak your truth. But here's a cold truth. Power is rarely authentic. It's calculated. And until you start calculating, you will always serve those who do. Every empire was built by men who understood this. They didn't rise by being good. They rose by being effective, by seeing the board, reading people, and moving with precision. And that's exactly what Machiavelli teaches. Not how to be evil, but how to stop being exploited by those who aren't afraid to be. You are not powerless. You are untrained. And every day you remain naive, someone sharper uses you, your time, your trust, your emotions, to build their own empire. So now the real question, when do you stop being a piece and start becoming a player? You have strength. You have potential. You have instincts, sharp, primal, survival-driven. But none of it matters if you never use it. That's the tragedy of modern man. He was born with fire, but trained to drown it. From childhood, you were told to suppress aggression, hide ambition, and avoid confrontation. Be agreeable, be polite, be nice. But here's the Machiavellian truth. Unexpressed power is invisible, and invisible men don't rule anything. Virtù, Machiavelli's term for a man's capacity to act with force, cunning, and decisiveness, is the core of power. It's not morality, it's not luck, it's the ability to will reality into your favor, but you've buried it. And in doing so, you've made yourself exploitable, because those who lack virtù are ruled by those who have it. Look around. The bold take the stage, the clever pull the strings, the ruthless rewrite the rules. And you? You hesitate, you overthink, you wait for permission. Machiavelli never admired cruelty, but he understood its utility. He saw that in a corrupt world, timidity is not virtue, it's a slow death. Think about your life. How many times have you stayed silent when you should have spoken with force? How many times did you back down to avoid conflict and lost respect instead? How many chances have you missed because you waited for certainty that never came? Virtù doesn't wait, it acts. Because in the arena of power, hesitation is blood in the water. And predators don't forgive second guesses. You think people will reward your patience, they won't. They reward performance. You think your intentions matter, they don't. Results do. You think staying in the background keeps you safe. It doesn't. It just makes you forgettable. Men who change history, or even their own lives, don't ask for permission. They don't beg for fairness. They take initiative. They shape perception. They strike first. That's virtù. It's not brute strength. It's strategic ferocity. It's knowing when to smile and when to strike, when to charm and when to dominate, when to retreat and when to burn the bridge behind you. Virtù is a weapon, not for everyone, but for those who refuse to be used, silenced, or forgotten. So ask yourself, what are you waiting for? Permission or provocation? How long will you keep your blade sheathed while others carve their names into your future? Because the truth is this, your passivity doesn't protect you. It enslaves you, and until you awaken your virtù, you will remain a servant in someone else's kingdom. In a world built on power and perception, usefulness is not about what you are, it's about what you appear to be. And here's the rule, no one teaches you. The moment you stop appearing useful, you become expendable. People won't tell you this. They'll say you're valued, important, like family. But those words are currency, soft, comforting lies used to keep you compliant. The real calculation is cold. Are you an asset or a liability? If you don't understand this, you'll be blindsided when you're replaced, ghosted, betrayed, or fired. Not because you failed, but because someone else made themselves look more valuable. Let's make it brutal and clear. Loyalty without leverage is useless. Hard work without visibility is invisible. Skill without strategy is wasted. The mistake most men make is assuming they'll be rewarded for quiet competence. But Machiavelli knew better. Perception is more powerful than performance. In a competitive arena, whether it's business, politics, or relationships, survival depends on controlling how others see you. So how do the sharp survive? They manage optics. They make sure their contributions are known, their presence felt, and their power sensed, even if not fully understood. They cultivate mystique. They avoid overexposure. They play the part of the indispensable. Because here's the paradox. The more predictable you are, the easier you are to replace. But when you control information, create scarcity, and project quiet dominance, you become a piece no one dares remove. In the court of power, being liked is a luxury. Being needed is a necessity. So stop trying to be nice. Start being strategically essential. Keep your values slightly out of reach. Let others sense you could walk away, and everything would collapse without you. That's leverage. And leverage is the one language power respects. Let me ask you, are you signaling strength or dependence? If they had to cut someone today, would you be missed or forgotten? Because men who are too available, too transparent, too eager, get used. They become tools, stepping stones, disposable assets. But those who master the art of selective visibility, who reveal just enough to be respected, but never enough to be controlled, those men become irreplaceable. It's not about lying. It's about shaping perception with precision, like a general hiding his true army, like a CEO who says little but moves markets, like a lion that watches silently until it's time to strike. You are not here to be liked. You are here to be feared when absent and respected when present. So stop begging for recognition. Make yourself so strategically vital that they fear losing you more than they want to use you. You were taught that manipulation is evil, that only villains deceive, influence, or orchestrate behind the scenes. But here's the Machiavellian reality. Manipulation is not evil, it's inevitable. Every human interaction is a negotiation of power, image, and desire. And if you don't steer it, someone else will. In every room you enter, someone is calculating. They're testing your boundaries, reading your reactions, positioning themselves to get more of your time, your loyalty, your energy, your silence. And if you're not doing the same, you're not the player, you're the play. Let's make it clear, there is no such thing as a neutral interaction. You think your colleague is just being friendly? He's mapping your weaknesses. You think your partner's questions are innocent? She's probing for leverage. You think the harmless request is a favor? It's a loyalty test. The world runs on influence, not fairness. And while you're out here trying to be transparent and real, the sharp are editing reality, crafting images, controlling outcomes. They don't manipulate because they're evil. They manipulate because they understand human nature and refuse to be its victim. Ask yourself, how many times have you said yes when you wanted to say no? How often do you stay quiet to avoid rocking the boat? How much of your life is shaped by fear of disappointing others? That's manipulation, not theirs. Yours, against yourself. You've been emotionally blackmailed by the social rules of passivity. You've internalized the lie that being good means being open, vulnerable, and predictable. But in power dynamics, predictability is weakness. It makes you easy to use, easy to guilt, easy to discard. Now listen closely. To manipulate is to protect yourself. To shape perception is to survive. To understand human desires and fears and act accordingly is not corruption. It's evolution. The lion manipulates the herd by silence. The general manipulates the enemy with feints. The CEO manipulates markets with words. And you're too busy being honest to even play the game. Machiavelli didn't glorify deceit. He taught awareness. He taught adaptation. He taught that a man who refuses to manipulate will always be at the mercy of those who do. So what's your choice? Be the silent strategist or the unsuspecting sacrifice. Control the frame or be trapped inside someone else's. Because make no mistake, every man is either using the game or being used by it. And until you accept that, you'll keep giving power away to those who never hesitated to take it. You think loyalty is a virtue. You've been taught to honor your word, stand by your people, and never betray those who trust you. But here's the reality. Loyalty is not sacred. It's strategic. And betrayal isn't evil, it's inevitable. You're not living in a world of honor. You're living in a world of shifting interests. And when interests change, loyalties evaporate, fast. Machiavelli saw it clearly. People stay loyal only as long as it serves them. And when it doesn't, they'll switch sides, smiling, rationalizing, pretending you changed. So ask yourself, how many times have you been loyal to someone who wouldn't hesitate to cut you loose? How many times have you sacrificed for a tribe, company, or partner that replaced you the moment it was convenient? You called it betrayal, but they called it business, survival, opportunity. In their eyes, you were just too slow to adjust. That's the hard lesson. If you treat loyalty as a value while others treat it as a currency, you lose. They'll buy your silence, your effort, your allegiance, for as little as praise, comfort, or attention. And when your cost outweighs your utility, they'll trade you like an asset that depreciated. This is not cruelty, it's calculus. People are loyal to their interests, not to your feelings. They align with strength. They follow power. The moment you appear weak, uncertain, or no longer essential, they shift. just like soldiers defecting to the side that feeds them, just like voters switching when promises aren't kept, just like loyal friends who vanish the second you stop providing value. You think betrayal is rare, but in power dynamics, betrayal is the default outcome of mismanaged loyalty. Machiavelli never condemned betrayal. He saw it as a natural function of ambition. Where there is power to be gained, trust becomes negotiable. So what should you do? You control loyalty. You don't give it freely. You make others prove their worth again and again. You tie loyalty to leverage, not sentiment. You reward those who deliver. You replace those who don't. You don't trust blindly. You test. You observe under pressure. You create systems where betrayal has consequences. Because here's the truth no one wants to say. Blind loyalty is not strength. It's submission. And if you keep being loyal to those who see you as replaceable, you're not noble. You're a fool. So ask yourself, who would betray you the second you stopped being useful? Who are you loyal to that wouldn't bleed for you in return? The answers will sting, but they'll also set you free. Because once you stop worshiping loyalty as a virtue, you start using it as a weapon. You still believe people rise to power because they're good, fair, or just. You think success is earned by virtue, respect by authenticity, trust by truth. But what if I told you, most powerful people aren't moral? They're strategic enough to look moral. Because in the theater of power, appearance is reality. Let's get brutally clear. Morality is not power, but the illusion of morality. That's one of the greatest tools of power ever created. The preacher who preaches purity and sleeps with his congregation. The CEO who promises equality while exploiting offshore labor. The politician who champions justice while crushing enemies behind closed doors. They're not anomalies. They're models. They understand what most men don't. Image is armor. Virtue is camouflage. Goodness is a calculated brand. People don't want the truth. They want comfort. They want heroes. They want leaders who seem righteous, even if they're coldly strategic beneath the surface. Machiavelli said it best. A leader must learn how not to be good, but must always appear good. Because men judge with their eyes, not their minds. And he who controls the appearance controls the crowd. So while you're out here being honest, raw, and emotionally open, your competitor is crafting narratives, polishing his mask, framing every move to look noble, even when it's ruthless. He wins. You get applause, and stay broke, stuck, ignored. And when you try to expose him, no one listens because he looks good, and that's all they needed. So what's the lesson? Stop chasing moral validation. Start controlling your image. You don't need to lie. You need to frame. You need to decide how you'll be perceived and enforce it relentlessly. Show strength but hide the blade. Show calm but calculate every move. Speak of values but never let them paralyze your strategy. Because in the power game, morality is a costume, useful when worn, deadly when believed. Let me ask you, who around you is using virtue as a shield while moving like a predator? How many good men have destroyed you simply because they knew how to smile while stabbing? Wake up. The world doesn't reward moral purity. It rewards strategic morality, virtue with fangs. And until you learn to project the image without becoming the victim of it, you'll remain a noble man in a world that honors only kings. You think you're unlucky, that life hasn't given you the right chances, that success comes down to fate or some divine hand you can't control. But here's what Machiavelli knew centuries ago. Fortune doesn't reward the just. It rewards the prepared. In the real world, luck is not an accident. It's the residue of design. You see someone rise fast. You call it luck. You see another man close the deal, get the promotion, win loyalty. You call him fortunate. But what you're missing is the preparation, the positioning. The unseen moves behind the moment. Fortune is chaotic, yes, but chaos doesn't destroy everyone equally. It crushes the weak, and it elevates the ready. Here's the truth. If you're not preparing for war during peace, you'll be slaughtered when the storm comes. The man who anticipates power shifts, wins. The man who builds leverage before he needs it, survives. The man who studies the terrain before the enemy arrives, dominates. Meanwhile, the good man, he prays for luck. He hopes things will turn out. He mistakes passivity for patience, and then complains when life moves past him like a cold wind. Let me make it simple. Hope is not a strategy. Preparation is. That's why Machiavelli respected boldness over justice, because fortune, like war, like politics, like power, bends to those who move first, strike hard, and don't wait for perfect conditions. You don't need to be righteous, you need to be ready. The battlefield doesn't care about your fairness. The court doesn't care about your heart. The boardroom doesn't care about your integrity. They care if you're positioned. They care if you're prepared. They care if you're dangerous enough to shape outcomes. So ask yourself, what opportunity would you be ready to seize today? If it dropped in your lap right now, would you have the skill, the contacts, the courage? Or would you freeze, unarmed, untrained, unworthy of the luck you crave? Fortune will not wait for you. She arrives suddenly, and she favors those who've built the fortress before the flood. That's why Machiavelli compared her to a wild woman. Unpredictable, violent, and conquered only by those bold enough to seize her. So no, your problem isn't bad luck. Your problem is bad readiness. And until you build the discipline to anticipate chaos, adapt to crisis, and act with urgency, you'll keep blaming fortune for your failures, instead of becoming the man who bends her to his will. You've spent your life trying to be good, trying to be liked, trying to play by the rules. And what did it get you? Used, overlooked, replaced. Here's your awakening. No one respects a man who refuses to wield power. No one follows a man who waits for permission. No one fears a man who won't strike first. If you want to stop being used, you must become the one who uses. Not out of malice, out of necessity, because the world isn't designed for fairness. It's designed for hierarchy. And every day you hesitate to lead, someone else leads you. Let's be direct. You are not a victim. You are unarmed. Machiavelli didn't teach cruelty. He taught clarity. Clarity about human nature. Clarity about power. Clarity about what it takes to win in a world where appearances rule and loyalty is rented. You keep waiting for someone to recognize your worth, but recognition is for servants. Power is taken, not given. The moment you start thinking like a leader, not a follower, everything changes. Leaders don't chase validation. They control perception. Leaders don't seek fairness. They build leverage. Leaders don't hope to be chosen. They position themselves to be impossible to ignore. That is the essence of modern virtue. The ability to move through a corrupt world with ruthless grace, to dominate without shouting, to lead without begging, to influence without exposing your hand. So how do you stop being used? You become unreadable. You become indispensable. You become feared, not for your cruelty, but for your capability. You speak less and observe more. You reward selectively. You trust slowly. You act decisively. You study power, not politics. You study silence, not noise. You study results, not intentions. You stop asking, why is the world so unfair? And you start asking, how do I control the game? Because the truth is this, no one is coming to save you, but you can save yourself by becoming a man the world can't ignore. You want to be respected? Then stop apologizing for your strength. Stop hiding your ambition. Stop playing a role that was written to keep you tame. Write your own script. Design your own image. Build your own empire. Because once you understand Machiavelli, the fog lifts. You don't cry about the game. You learn how to win it. You've just seen the truth. Not the version they teach in schools, not the one polished for public comfort. The real one, brutal, strategic, unfiltered. You're being used. Because you never understood power. Because you never understood Machiavelli. But now you do. Now you see that in this world, morality without strategy is weakness. Loyalty without leverage is slavery. Kindness without boundaries is bait. And appearances, often matter more than substance. This isn't a tragedy, it's your turning point. Because knowledge is leverage, and power begins the moment you stop pretending the world is fair and start acting like a man who can shape it. So let me ask you, directly, are you done being used? Are you ready to lead instead of follow, to be feared when necessary, and respected always? Because the rules have always been there, hidden in the works of Machiavelli, ignored by the masses, used by the rulers. You now hold the playbook. What will you do with it? If this video shattered illusions you've carried for years, good. That was the goal. Now tell me in the comments, are you ready to become the player, or will you keep being the piece? Subscribe for the next chapter in this war for power, and remember, the game doesn't stop. It just gets more visible once you open your eyes.